from all regions, from 4 regions here joining us. We've had a session on hydrogen last year already in the last event, and where we explored a little bit the European hydrogen strategy and looked into regional hydrogen strategies and the development of regional hydrogen strategies. And today in this session, we want to take a closer look at really the potentials of green hydrogen. Okay. Could we have the next slide? And we will have 2 presentations, but and a discussion with the panel. But we also want you to give the opportunity to bring in your views, your voices, and your questions. And we will do that using Slido. So if you have the possibility, either on your smartphone or in your computer to work on, go to slido.com, enter the code green hydrogen, or you can follow the link on the swap card. If you could see that should be just down below the video that you see. And there you will be able to vote, and you'll be able to submit your questions. And I would ask you, please give us your as many questions as you can. The shorter you make them, the more concise they are, the easier it is for me to understand them and redirect them to the panel. And having said that, I would like to have a first glance at the panel. I will introduce them into more detail when we come to it. But we have 4 speakers, and we will start with a presentation from Matthias Seitz, who will be presenting on a German lignite mining region, but will actually look at the questions of decarbonizing industry and the role of hydrogen in decarbonizing industry. Thank you, Matthias, for joining us. We will have another presentation from Greece. Nikolaos and Tavos will present one of the clusters, hydrogen clusters, and there it will be very much the link between green hydrogen and the energy supply, electricity, heat supply. And after those 2 presentations, we will have a poll. So this is why I said go to Slido. We will need your input, your voices. And then we'll open up in a panel. And in the panel, there it will be 2 more colleagues joining us. It will be from Aragon, Javier Navarro Espada. Thank you, Javier, for joining. And from the Czech Republic, it will be Karel Tichy. And we will try to bring in the different views of the different regions, because we know that despite the similarities we have in regions, there's quite a bit of differences in the regions. And we want to explore what are actually the potentials and where are the challenges. You will see when we go to the 2 presentations, there is always a technical part of it. But of course, we want to explore more really what is behind in terms of economic development, job development. Where are the challenges with respect to what infrastructures do we need, what kind of skills do we need to get a fuller picture of what hydrogen can bring for the future of coal regions. Having said that, I would like to come to our first presentation, Matthias Seitz. Matthias is a researcher at the Fraunhofer Institute for Microstructure and Materials and Systems. He's also a professor at the University of Applied Science in Merseburg. And Matthias, you will be presenting on central Germany, which is a lignite mining region, but which is also a quite strong chemical industry hub. And that is your perspective. What do you have to tell us from your views and experiences there? Over to you, Matthias.
Thank you very much for the introducing words. Yes, my name is Matthias Seitz, and I'm working in a region which had a change already in the past. 30 years ago, the industry was very concentrated and depended on lignite. And the next slide shows you the region. And we have, of course, here, yes, a lot of changes before us, because the thing is the climate protection. We have to change the energy system, okay, coal will phase out, and we have to reduce the greenhouse gases. But what's about the power supply for the industry, and what about the raw materials? We have not all. We have to change the power supply, and we have to change, well, the raw materials for chemistry. And here in the region, in Leipzig, Halle, it's a little bit. It's 200 kilometers in the south of Berlin. The chemical industry is very important for jobs and so on, and for the base industry, base chemicals. And so we have to use electricity-based hydrogen to change the value chains. Yes, we have to fossilize the chains, and it's a big opportunity, but also a challenge, if you can imagine. The next slide shows the potentials. We have, of course, here a hydrogen pipeline, and we can storage. We have a storage system. We can storage hydrogen because it's very important, because wind and sun does not always shine and blow. Yes, and you need some load flexible possibilities to produce hydrogen when wind is blowing, and to produce hydrogen and store it, and when no wind is available, you can use this hydrogen. Yes, there are a lot of other issues in this region. Linde has 5 hydrogen liquefiers and so on. We have a steam cracker, we have a refinery which is oil-based. We have the largest methanol plant, and yes, some ammonia production plant, and so on. And the big challenge is, how will they run in the future without fossil fuels? Of course, we need to substitute mining, lignite mining, but we have also to substitute, oil and gas. And we cannot leave all these assets behind and make everything new. We have to use this plants in the future, and we have to integrate electricity-based hydrogen, for example, with power-to-X technologies. Well, the next slide shows, well, it's a big challenge in Germany because we have to substitute a lot of naphtha-based production processes. On the left side, you see the situation today, and with, let's say ammonia, with methanol, we need hydrogen to produce this, and it's gray hydrogen, of course, we take. And well, we have to substitute coal, for example, in steel industry in the future, but we have also to substitute oil-based naphtha. And this is the only way is power-to-X technologies, and perhaps a little bit with bio-based raw materials. Yes, it's a big challenge because the hydrogen demand is very, very high, and it's about the half of the power consumption in Germany up to now. It's, a big challenge, of course. The next slide is what we are doing. We try to make some, investigations, of course, but we want to couple the chemical industry with the hydrogen production. How do the electrolyzers run load flexible? Yes, I mentioned it. How many pipelines do we need for hydrogen, but also for carbon dioxide? Because if you have no carbon dioxide, you cannot make power-to-X. And so on. We have a lot of projects here. One is very interesting because we have a methanol plant in the region, and how to use this methanol plant in the future with power-to-X technology, it's possible, and it reduces the investment costs. Also in Görlitz, a big field for electrolyzers, and we want to couple the wind system in Bremerhaven with the electrolyzers, how can they run best? Yes, the next slide is a little bit different. It's not industry. Yes, of course, science and industry have to work together, but we have to integrate also the society, and we have to build up networks, because the hydrogen society is totally new, with power generation, with fuels, perhaps fuel cells, with the industry, how to manage all this, and the jobs have to be transformed from the coal, from also in the chemical industry, the jobs have to be changed, the skills are a little bit different. So we have to involve all actors in the region. We have to talk with them, we have to make think tanks. How will the region be a lighthouse region? And this is the big question. Yes, network, and the acceptance of the people, because everything is changing and they have some fields. Okay, the last slide I want to conclude. Many activities in science and in industry are going on, yes, and are necessary. A lot of investment is needed for the new technology and to ramp up all the processes. And we need some strategies to integrate existing assets. Yes, you cannot make everything new, and, because it's a big investment. It's also it has a high potential for new jobs, different jobs. You have to skill the people, and yes, we have narrow cooperation with science, economy, and the society, and to realize the global goals, but with considering the regional characteristics. So it's very important to take the local characteristics to make the change, and you have to be intelligent. It must be a systemic transformation, and you have to bring all the shareholders together. And so I'm through the presentation, and I'm open for the discussion.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you for that presentation. I think that was a good start, because it brings us away a little bit from our, I don't know, the cold regions, where we often just think power supply or heat supply, but it links us to the bigger industrial base of regions. I think that was very interesting in your talk, and I would love to discuss that also with the other discussants, that how the network, the skills and things. Maybe just one quick question to you, Matthias. You showed the slide, the graph, where basically we see the ramp up of the expected hydrogen need, and there is a lot of hydrogen production already in the region, grey hydrogen as it is now. But on the other side, if I looked at your numbers right, the really increase starts in 2035, right? It's I mean, that looks like it's far away, 15 years. Do you think we still have a lot of time, or do we urgently need to act? What is your view?
My point of view is we have urgently act, yes, because the ramp-up phase is very hard. We have electrolyzers yet, of course, you can sell them, but the production plant is not available at the moment. Yes, in big scale, you have to change with, yes, a lot of terawatt hours per year. It's incredible. You have to build up a lot of electrolyzers, yes, and to integrate the power supply, well, you need wind turbines, you need, and the investments are really high, and this is a big challenge, and you have to prepare this. The systems have to run, yes, secure, how to storage hydrogen, how to handle all this issue with flexible loadings, yes. It's not very easy up to now, and we have to make some investigations in the next, I think, 5-10 years. It's very important, and ramp up parallel the industry. So I hope and I expect that in 10 years we have the ramp-up phase in the industry. They have to invest, they have to need the planning done up to this point. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias. I think that's important to keep in mind. Although it looks long in the future, it is something we need to act now.
Yes.
And that leads me basically, I think, to the next presentation. Thank you, Matthias. We'll continue the discussion, but let's hear the presentation of Nikolaos Matthias. Nikolaos, you're co-founder and manager of the Cluster of Bioeconomy and Environment of Western Macedonia in Greece, and you are part of the managing team of the White Dragon Hydrogen Project, and you give us some insights of what the plans are in Western Macedonia to use hydrogen. And I think ramp up of capacities is definitely a key issue you can highlight. Over to you, Nikolaos, for your presentation.
Of course. Thank you. Hello all. I'm representing here the coordination team of the White Dragon project. It started as a regional concept, as a regional project back in 2019, before the important project of common European interest regarding hydrogen was started. So then, back in 2019, our regional governor asked, and seeing already the decarbonization process of our region, asked of a big hydrogen project in order to tackle all this transition period. So next slide, please. Yes. So regarding Western Macedonia, we are one of the main lignite regions of Greece. We used to produce in the previous decades more than 50% of the total electricity of the country. We have 4 lignite power plants and 12 units in operation, representing the 40% of the thermal units and 20% of the total installed net capacity of the interconnected system in Greece nowadays. And about 1,100 citizens of Kozani, Ptolemaida, and Aminteo are heated by the district heating system from the lignite power plants. Next slide. So what we have seen is that we wanted to went a strategic project on hydrogen, and this came out as White Dragon. And the core of the cluster project, as we tend to say it, is that we tend to utilize gigawatt scale variable renewable electricity, short-term energy hydrogen storage, and green combined heat and power production through high temperature fuel cells. Furthermore, additional key objectives are paramount importance for the region and are foreseen, like the development of a high-tech industrial research and development hydrogen research center and the hub in Greece, the capitalization of the existing energy infrastructure, both electricity and natural gas pipelines for long-term storage and transportation of green hydrogen with the establishment of an energy net metering scheme, the implementation of a dedicated hydrogen backbone pipeline in Greece, and the build-up of the national hydrogen mobility sector. In addition, through the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, which passes through our region, a cross-border clean hydrogen transfer will be enabled from Greece to Italy and then connected to the rest of the Central Europe. Next slide. So, what we intend to do is to build a new sustainable production model for the region of the Western Macedonia for this post-coal area, with a low-carbon society promoting technical innovation. And with White Dragon being detailed in the previous 2 years, we have established a clean technology and green hydrogen valley. So in the Greek call for the important project of common European interest, 3 out of the 5 projects that are already in the pre-notification phase are located in Western Macedonia: the White Dragon, the Green Hippo, and the H2CAT tanks projects. Next slide. So, about the White Dragon cluster project. which is an integrated European project. It is separated in 3 sub-projects: the White Dragon joint venture, as we call it, and the 2 other pipeline projects, the White Dragon TAP, with the Trans-Adriatic pipeline being in charge, and the White Dragon DESFA, which will be implemented by DESFA, which is the Greek TSO. Next slide. So regarding innovations of the White Dragon, we will use variable renewable electricity from the grid, and also a 500 megawatt PV directly connected to the electrolyzers and not to the grid. So integration of different technologies into a complete system. We will use electrolysis of PEM, IL, and SOL in 4.65 gigawatt of capacity. We will also use solid oxide reversible stacks and during the electrolysis they will have the capacity of 350 megawatt, and during the fuel cell they will have 100 megawatt, and we will also use high temperature PEM fuel cells of the capacity of 400 megawatt. Also, a heating capacity will be obtained around 500 megawatt, which will lead to the district heating energy needs. So the second innovation is the energy net metering through the natural gas pipelines. I will explain a bit more in detail in the forthcoming slides. Also, a dedicated 100% hydrogen backbone pipeline in Greece, and please in the previous. And a cross-border hydrogen transfer through the Trans-Adriatic pipeline. Also, we will have big quantities for other uses and to be transported to large end users like refineries, fertilizer companies, but also natural gas CHP plants, and also the mobility sector. Next slide. So this is the layout of the electrolysis mode. So we will use mainly solar, but also wind and hydropower energy to transform water into hydrogen, and this hydrogen will be first go with a short-term storage, and the rest will be injected into the 2 pipelines, the DESFA pipeline and the TAP pipeline. Next slide. And in the opposite direction, hydrogen and blended hydrogen with natural gas will be used in high temperature fuel cells in order to provide combined heat and power both to the grid and to the district heating networks of the area. Next slide. So White Dragon is already considered as a lighthouse pioneer project from Hydrogen Europe, one of the 4 in European level, tackling an aspiring vision: the integration of gigawatt-scale variable renewable energy, electricity in the Southeast European energy system, the connection of electrolysis and high-temperature fuel cells with energy storage, electricity grid stabilization and district heating locally, hydrogen natural gas blending for pipeline transportation, and a large industrial hydrogen use in a cohesive, first-of-a-kind hydrogen hub. Next slide, please. So regarding the pipelines, we will use with the 2 sub-projects, the White Dragon DESFA and the White Dragon TAP project, we will use the existing pipelines, transforming them and making them ready for hydrogen injection, transportation, and storage. But also, in the second stage of the IPCI project, a dedicated hydrogen pipeline will be developed, will be established from DESFA in order to provide, in the beginning, hydrogen to the big industrial clients, like the fertilizer company, like the refineries, but also to the 2 biggest urban centers of Greece in Athens and Thessaloniki. Next slide, please. So about the project duration, it will start in 2022. We are already in the pre-notification phase and hoping that this procedure will end by the end of the year. And then the grant will be also evaluated and received in the first quarter of 2022, and we will start the implementation in the mid-2022. And it is going to last until 2029 with all the IPCI phases R&D, FID, and EET, which is the research and development phase, the first industrial deployment phase, and the infrastructure phase. The total hydrogen production in 2030 will be around 283,000 tons per year. We will have renewable and renewable electricity and heat of 1.7 and 1.9 gigawatt hours, but also we will have some major CO2 savings of 11.5 million tons per year, and a lot of jobs created in the area during the construction phase. I will see around 10,000 direct jobs and 29,000 indirect jobs, but also during operation after 2030, around 3,000 direct jobs will be in the area. And also we will have hydrogen for other uses from 1,080,000 tons to 158,000 tons of hydrogen per year. Next slide. So what are the benefits? White Dragon will develop the hydrogen economy in the whole country, in all Greece, and it will make the country a pioneer in hydrogen technologies in Southeastern Europe. Will be a significant project in the field of hydrogen electricity across Europe, a power-to-power project. We'll install high-tech production lines of fuel cells and electrolyzers in Western Macedonia. These are the linked projects of Green Hippo, which they installed the production lines of electrolyzers and high-temperature PEM fuel cells in Western Macedonia. And will reverse the brain drain by creating jobs of high technological and scientific level. Western Macedonia, we believe it will become a research and development hub for the European hydrogen industry, and it can be a pole of attraction for investment and joint venture with strategic industry partners in areas such as aeronautics, defense, and automotive, etc. Next slide, please. Blending also of hydrogen in the existing gas network is a transitional solution of multiple advantages. A large reduction in greenhouse gases can be achieved at low systemic cost in the short and medium term. It allows the development of hydrogen production capacity and promote a positive business case for transition to a hydrogen system. It provides renewable energy and low carbon energy to consumers directly connected to the gas network, and an existing hydrogen pipeline will be needed to close significant difference in hydrogen supply, potential, and hydrogen demand across the country in the next phase. The system will also serve to connect the national hydrogen system to neighboring systems, those providing security of supply and market integration in the future. Hydrogen pipeline networks are the most economical option for transporting hydrogen over long distances in large quantities for all possible land routes within Europe and between Europe and potential neighboring export areas. Next slide, please. I think it's finalized. No, also, this is the project partners. All major Greek energy companies are part of the consortium. DEPA Commercial is the coordinator with the Public Power Corporation also in place, Advent as the technology provider, both Hellenic Petroleum and Motor Oil, the big refineries of Greece, but also Copelousos Group and Terna Energy are part of the White Dragon joint venture. And also we can see on the bottom the three pipelines, VESFA, which is the national TSO, and Trans-Adriatic Pipeline. And also we have on board as indirect partner the Corinth Pipeworks about the pipelines themselves. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I think the next slide is about the followers. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you, but
I lost the presentation. Sorry.
Okay. It looked like that was the last slide. Sorry, Niklaus, if you had one more, we cut you short.
No worries. No worries. It's fine as it is. So I'm available for any details or questions.
Yeah, thank you. I think because when we talk about ramp up, that shows it's an impressive ramp up you're doing there, definitely. And I think I mean, you gave some technological insights, but the link to creating jobs in the region on the short term, in the long term, avoiding brain drain from the region. I mean, we know that Western Macedonia is a rather rural region, right? And a lot of rural regions are struggling with people moving away out of those regions. So how do we make those regions attractive? I think that is a very good example, and we're definitely going to discuss some more on that. Excuse me, I have a technical question. I'm a physicist. Sometimes my technical nature comes through. You showed very clearly it's very strongly based on solar, hydrogen production on solar. What is your expectation? Because electrolyzers are most efficient when they run 24 hours, 7 days a week, continuous. What is your expectation how you want to run them? Is flexibility of hydrogen production something you address? How do you address it? What is your plans there?
This is, yeah.
Try to make it short. I know this could be like, we could be discussing this for 2 hours, just that question.
Correct. I will have a short answer, let's say. This is one of the major issues, but keep in mind that in Western Macedonia, due to the fact that we have a big capacity regarding electricity connection to the rest of Greece, we have nowadays a big also demand for PV installations. Nowadays, there are more than 30 gigawatts of installed capacity that are asking for permissions, and the whole, let's say, Greek electricity grid is on 10 gigawatts, and the need is about around 10 gigawatt, depending on the season. So we really think that we will have plenty of capacity of PVs to be directly connected and provide the electricity grid, to provide from the electricity grid the needed electricity for the electrolyzers. But this is something that it will need more concrete solutions, and it's not an easy task to integrate such units into a complete power-to-power and power-to-gas system. So this is a challenge, of course.
Okay, we'll pick that up in the discussion. I know some of the colleagues who want to jump in onto that. I see you smiling in the background. Nicolas, one more quick question. There was a question from the audience. Heat supply, how many households? Do you have a number of how many households are we talking roughly heat supply here?
I think they are around 30,000. They are okay. More than 100,000 people are connected. So if I'm not mistaken, around 30,000.
So it is a large
household. Yes, it's
okay.
3 cities. It's the 3 major cities of Western Macedonia.
Okay, thank you. Cool. Thank you for those 2 presentations. And before we go discussing with the other 2 discussants and the panel, I would like to discuss with you, the participants, and I would like to, can we change to the Slido presentation for that? And if you have not gone onto Slido, please go to slido.com, green hydrogen, or you just, if you want to use your smartphone to screen the QR code, and the first answers are coming in. My first question would be, if we think of hydrogen, future hydrogen economy for coal regions, do you think that creates more opportunities, or is it, that is another challenge and there is difficulties? What are your views? Do you see in hydrogen and in the long run, green hydrogen, more opportunities or more challenges? Please make your votes. Currently we're 50-50, but now that seems to be changing quickly. Oh, and the more people we get, the more optimistic we seem to get, of about 3/4 of our participants say there's more opportunities than challenges. There certainly is both, probably, but the vote is there's more opportunities than challenges so far. Good. That is an optimistic start for our discussion. We take it, but we'll explore both in the discussion, both the challenges and the opportunities. With that, I would like to go to the next question, next on Slido, is let's have a look at the challenges. And in this one, you can vote. Whatever you click on first is most important. What do you think is the key challenge, or what are the most important challenges for the transition towards a green hydrogen economy in core regions? Is it skills and knowledge? Is it to have a regional strategy and cooperation? Is it building infrastructure? Is it the related investment needs? Or is it availability of space? Or is it something else we've not been thinking of or not been naming in that list? What would be your order of importance of those challenges? And we see quite a few votes coming in. And there's still more coming in, but there seems investment needs, infrastructure is seen by many of us as very important. But skills and knowledge equally to infrastructure. Taking over, good. Strategy and cooperation. Availability of space less, and I don't know if I see this properly on my screen. The other, luckily there's not every one of you has said, it's actually totally different things. That would have been an interesting question. Okay, so panelists, let's keep this in mind. These are the challenges that our colleagues see. Let's discuss that a little bit when we discuss what kind of challenges you see. Thank you for that. I would like to jump to the third slide and the third question we have. Okay, many of you said there is rich opportunities. Which are the opportunities? And in this one, you can just type in a text, a word, half a sentence, obviously not too long to make it readable, but if you just want to give us some bullet points, which opportunities do you see? And actually, I think you can type in more than one. If you see multiple opportunities, what are the opportunities that green hydrogen offers to coal regions? So there is things like decarbonization, upskilling, employment, working on skills level in the region, developing brand new branches of industry, several times jobs, and linking jobs with CO2 emissions. Innovation, but also better images for the regions, competitiveness for the regions. Construction level job opportunities, but also other industries like steel. Okay. Good, thank you for those insights. And then with that, we will jump to the panel, and I want to bring in two more speakers. Actually, that is, I first start with you, Javier. Javier Navarro-Espada, he works for the government of Aragon. You're Director General of Industry and Small Medium Enterprises, so very much on the economic and job side. When you saw those opportunities that people named, and when you heard the other two presentations from Germany and from Greece, if we now look at Aragon's Spain, what is your view of hydrogen and future green hydrogen what kind of opportunities do you see for a region like Aragon?
When I saw both presentations, I was watching our experience. We are working in projects very similar to them. The first thing, Aragon is a very big territory. We have the 10% of the Spanish territory. And we have almost in the center one coal zone, very important. We had almost 1.3 gigawatts installed, but now we are closed all that thermal power plants. We have ceramic industry and we have steel industries close to there. Now we have another gas plants close to them, almost 2 gigawatts, and we have a big population close that area, and we are constructing one project close similar to Fraunhofer presentation. We are matching the different productions and different consumptions, and we have more than 77 companies that they have interest to work in this project. That project is a big, a long time project. We are working, thinking in the scope or 2035 year, and we are involving 2,300 million euros, and even we are thinking in 100% hydrogen pipeline. That could be about 700 or 800 additional million euros. But is first that to think in the projects that we can develop, we have to think about the conditions to get that projects. The first of it is the political decision to facilitate the technologies of hydrogen, to show to the society all our possibilities, to convince the companies that they have one wealth and future working in that technologies, because that technologies are very horizontal, and they then can be used in many different. They can do a very good hybrid solutions, not only for thermal or for raw materials, to manage the renewables. In Aragon, at this moment, we have 9 gigawatts of power, and we are working with 13 more gigawatts, and all them, these 13, are renewable. Then we have to manage them. We have to solve. We have the infrastructures. That's very important. If we have the infrastructure, the electrical and the hydrocarbon infrastructure, we can do many of the things that our partners presented before. I could continue, but I think that you have one idea that what our possibilities and what are we doing. One thing more I have to say, we have all this because we were working 18 years ago. We started to work in the hydrogen, and we have professionals technicians that were working in this. And now is the moment to put the hands in the reality. Before was to study, to do little demonstration projects, but we have to start with the big projects now. We need to get the economy scales of this technology.
Yeah, thank you. I think that fits really very much into what we've heard in the previous two presentations, is that we're actually at this edge of ramping up where things increase in size. But I find your timeframes interesting when you said, okay, 18 years ago, you already started with first smaller projects, pilots projects, you build up skills in the region, but you now have a plan for next to 2035. I understood that correctly? So it is a longer plan. And I think it clearly shows that it addresses the region as a whole, and many of the industries and companies in the region, going beyond the smaller, I would say, the closer energy sector, and it addresses the industrial base of the region. Maybe, Karel, I would like to bring you in at this point. Karel Tichy, many of you may know him. He has been part of the platform before. He is now working for the Economic and Social Council for the Ústí region in the Czech Republic, but you have a lot of experience also in the Czech Republic in general and in other coal regions as some overview. When you've heard what the other colleagues are saying, first of all, maybe question to you. Do you see opportunities in green hydrogen or hydrogen future? And then I would like to come to the challenges, but maybe a quick word on, do you think there is opportunities for a region like Ústí region in hydrogen economy and hydrogen technologies?
Thank you, Simon, for your word. And I have to answer yes. There is definitely a great opportunity in hydrogen technologies for the coal regions in transition. We can feel it. We can feel it here in Ústí region in Czech Republic. Ústí region is traditionally being taken as, let's say, the energy and the chemical heart of the Czech Republic. So let's say the hydrogen would be a meaningful future for the region as such, and we can say we are working on it. We are, let's say, trying to coordinate the stakeholders within the region, trying to come up with the hydrogen strategy of the region, using also the newly presented strategy of the Czech Republic in the hydrogen field. And we hope that we'll be able to gather some, let's say, interesting scope of stakeholders within the region to do so. And I think that the coal regions have some really good and unique futures when it comes to the development and the potential of the development of the hydrogen economy, because you can find, let's say, really large number of let's say post-mining sites which can be effectively used for installing the renewable energy resources and infrastructure for production of the green hydrogen. We got capacities on the, let's say, human level, because our employees are, let's say, well knowledge-based equipped for the development of the hydrogen economy. And these are all, let's say, quite a good preconditions for us to succeed in the future. So according to my point of view, that's the hydrogen economy represents definitely an opportunity, of course, with many challenges ahead of us. But we have something to build on, because the hydrogen is not a new topic for the region. We got the largest petrochemical company here in the Ústí region producing till now the so-called gray hydrogen, but it's a hydrogen. And when we would like to start building up the hydrogen economy, we should start with it, and we will.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and we've seen that from the other presentation. It's for many regions, it's not a totally new thing. There is experiences or technologies of hydrogen, even if it's gray hydrogen at this stage, but there is knowledge in the region, and it links to industries in the region. Maybe, but let's try to be a little bit critical at this point. And I'm looking in parallel at the question colleagues have been asking from the audience. I mean, we probably shouldn't be overdoing it. It's like hydrogen is it's not very easy, and it's not solving our problems. But maybe quickly to you, Karel, what do you see from your regions? Where do you see the big challenges, or where are the difficulties in this pathway that is ahead of us?
There's a lot of difficulties and a lot of obstacles. Oh, definitely. From my point of view, we see as the most important part of the, let's say, this whole exercise to trying to build a hydrogen economy, the coordination of local stakeholders, to cooperate, to work together, because they are often till now competitors. And it's quite hard to manage them to work together on some common goal. But I think that when we continuously explain that it's the best we can do for the future of the region, they can feel it, and they are ready to participate and take part in the process. For this, in Ústí region, we have established a so-called hydrogen platform of the Ústí region, gathering more than 23 stakeholders, including large companies, SMEs, municipalities. With them, we are meeting quite regularly, monthly or 2-month basis. We are trying to learn their needs, and also we are trying to promote up-to-date news and information related to the support of hydrogen economy through the Europe, through Czech Republic. And with this kind of effort, I can say that in last 3 years, and it's accelerating in last year, in a strong connection with the preparation of the Just Transition Fund and Territorial Just Transition Plan here in Czech Republic, we see the results. And we know that when this will continue, we will reach the goals in some time.
Okay, thank you for that, Karel. Maybe to go a little bit further on the challenges, Matthias, can I bring you in on that? I don't know. I mean, Karel mentioned bringing the different people together, the stakeholders together to agree. But what are your views? What would you consider is key challenge? Or first of all, do you have something on bringing the different stakeholders, the different investors together? Is that an issue? How have you done that in the regions that you know? Or are there other challenges which you think are more important, actually?
Well, in industry, in Leuna, it's very easy because it's relatively easy. It's not really easy, but relatively easy because there's a chemical site, and we have different companies. They are working together all the years before, and they have to commit. Yes, they are coming together. For example, the refinery Total, and Linde, which provides hydrogen up to now, and they have to talk with each other, and they have to talk about prices and the ramp-up phase, how megawatt they will install, and so on. What about the biggest issue is to make policy, because it's not very easy to have the German laws together with industry, because industry wants always the cheapest way to use hydrogen. But in Germany, it's a big issue to make it with a renewable energy law. Yes, because if you are working with electrolyzers, you have to mention, well, what's about the power supply, and will we have to pay the rates for the transition, for the network. And this is not very easy. You have to talk with the people and how to manage it. I don't know how it will be in future. The next point, I think the challenges are also technical things, because especially in some times you have wind and solar power, but in other times, for example, in winter you have no solar power, you have less power, and so you have to storage hydrogen in summer over the winter time, and you need big capacities. So the total chemical industry has to be a little bit flexible too. Yes, if you have more power in the grid, you need you can ramp up your production, and if there's no wind and no solar power, yes, you have to reduce your production, and this will be a big thing. And all these electrolyzers have to follow the load, and this is not very easy, because the electrolyzers, they show some aging effects, and you have to know that if you take every little bit wind to produce hydrogen, it might be not very nice for the aging behavior of your electrolyzers. And so you have to generate a lot of knowledge, what's the best way, in which case, very dynamic models, and I think these are the main challenges in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Matthias, for that. I think you touched upon quickly that we need frameworks, national frameworks, to support renewables, to support the hydrogen. So that is not something the regions can do only by themselves, right? There needs to be a framework, but there's obviously a lot of potential for activities in the regions that can drive it. And I think the technical knowledge, experimenting, putting up a pilot, and this question of flexibility, right? How do we make supply more flexible, or link that to the flexibility of renewables, intermittency of solar and wind? That is a key issue. Carol, I see you want to come in. Is it on that issue of flexibility?
Yeah.
Or which?
I'll definitely try to, because Matthias, maybe he has touched the largest issue in the whole exercise. That's the flexibility, and let's say the options related to the production of green energy, so the electrolyzers can produce the green hydrogen. As we all know, the wind and the solar are available in just for a limited period of time during the day, and when we realize the, let's say, investment needs into electrolyzers and related technologies, these are really huge, and no company will invest any money in something which won't be reasonable and returnable and profitable. So it means that the electrolyzers should run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 23,000 days per year. And that's really a hard exercise. How to secure you will be able to receive the green hydrogen during the night? Should there be some system of certificate, let's say, guaranteeing that the energy you are obtaining is green? Of course, these systems are working already now, but it's a brand new exercise for some of the companies, and it's not easy. And when I have mentioned investments, which are really huge, so with this comes the question, who will all pay it? Because the sources of the Just Transition Fund is really limited, and to be honest, Just Transition Fund shouldn't be dedicated to finance these kind of investments in such a scale. We here in Czech Republic, we are lucky that we can use the sources of the Modernization Fund, which allocation is increasing with the price of the ETS allowances. So that's, for us, it's quite good. But what about Germany? and definitely there will have to be invest really large private money. That's also why we are stressing the need to use also the other two pillars of the just transition mechanisms, and the financial tools, loans, and so on, and this I see, besides the flexibility, so the scope and level of investment, as a really big challenge.
Right. Thank you. I think it's important to have those challenges in mind, and especially that link between the technical issues that we have and that we see that where we need innovation. And Nikolaus, I saw you nodding. I'll get back to you in a second. But also the finance opportunities and how to bring the companies together. Javier, you want to come in? What is it? Please add your view.
I think that it's very important to identify consumptions. We are talking very much about the production, but we have to identify big consumptions, and we have to involve the consumers in the production. Even this coupling the production with the electrical grid. Building installations only to produce hydrogen for industrial production. And another important thing, I think that in that way we can get little points to start to do one grid. We need to work in that way. And later we will see, of course, it's very useful and it's necessary to use the gas pipelines to storage and to decarbonize the natural gas. But we have to, I think that a solution is going to succeed by itself. We have to work in the addresses that we have to do one effort. That's the thing that I wanted to add now.
Yeah, thank you. I think that bringing production and consumption together and have a closer look at what is it actually that we have in future consumptions and how could consumers be part of the production, right? I think that is a key issue. Nikolaus, there are several questions actually I would like to bring to you. I mean, it comes back to the question I've raised earlier, flexibility. When we hear that, but also in terms of, I mean, the technological thing is one, but I mean also in terms of how does it link with business models? Do those companies that are involved see actually a business model, and how do you, I mean, I would love to hear more about the net metering idea of how do you bring that in, because that for me is a first step of trying to set up something which could eventually lead into a business model. What do you have to say there?
Correct. Just wanted to comment on first about the before this discussion. We have to keep in mind that hydrogen is already here, but it's quite expensive. So what we need to overcome is the large scale units that need to be implemented in order to bring down the price of hydrogen infrastructure, but also hydrogen produced. So if we try to mobilize big investment, I think this reduction, this industrialization of hydrogen technologies will happen, and will happen in market driven investments. So before we need to invest, we need to, let's say, Europe needs to invest, and the countries and the member states, but also the companies need to invest in large-scale projects in order to bring down the price of the technologies. But second, what we have came in our attention is that starting the project, the White Dragon project, as a regional initiative, as a non-company initiative, and bringing on afterwards the companies themselves, we realized that there is a strong business case for all companies, especially for energy companies and for, of course, for pipeline companies and for oil refinery companies. So they need to, let's say, green their operations. So they can do it only with renewables, but this is not feasible. So hydrogen here comes to take the place as storage capacity. And in power-to-power, let's say, systems, we really believe that hydrogen will be the turning point for these companies to invest more in renewable and then obtain more with hydrogen.
Thank you. I take two questions from the floor, which are directed to you, Niklaus. First question: in the project you're running, is all the hydrogen, is that going to be reduced only from solar? Is it just green hydrogen, or also do you produce hydrogen as from gas, gray hydrogen, or other?
It's only green. But it's not only solar, so it will be, let's say, from green PPAs, not only by solar, but also by wind and by water, by hydropower. And also we will obtain electricity from the grid with a green certificate. We already collaborate with our National Grid Association and with the regulatory authority in order to provide this, to be ready in a regulation. In the regulations phase, because we need to start fast, and this is also a critical issue. And regarding the net metering scheme, what we have made, what we want to implement is that we produce hydrogen. We produce it in more quantities seasonally, of course, due to the fact that most of it will be made from PVs, and this will be stored, let's say, in the pipelines, in the natural gas pipeline. So when the high temperature fuel cells will need to work in order to provide the electricity grid with a base load, we will obtain, of course, if the green hydrogen is not available from the stored storage, we will obtain blended hydrogen with natural gas from the grid. And with this net metering scheme, we will certify that the electricity and the heat produced will be green in the end. Okay, thank you. And there is one more specific question, but maybe that also goes to Javier. I don't know. Hydrogen is water use for hydrogen. Is that an issue, especially looking at countries that are not as rainy and grey countries as Germany is perceived to be a country, or and in the Mediterranean, where there's a lot of drier regions? Is water for hydrogen an issue, and how do you deal with it? In general, water for hydrogen is an issue, but I think this is a win-win situation for the coal regions, due to the fact that all the coal lignite power plants use a lot of water already in order to cool down their process. So what in fact we have done is that after the decommissioning of the lignite power plants in Western Macedonia, we will use this water that used to go to the power plants in order to produce the hydrogen. So and we will use a lot less than the water were used for the lignite power plants. Okay. So for us, it's not an issue. Okay, thank you. I think that's important, because sometimes those side effects of what other resources do we use or overuse are often overlooked. That's good to hear. Correct. And maybe that is a question to all of you, and maybe, I don't know, Matthias or whoever wants to come in on that. I mean, when we look at other resources, right? Producing hydrogen needs a lot of resources. We've touched upon that: renewables, water, space. Javier said in Aragon there's a lot of space for renewables. Is that, where do you see limitations, or where do we have to be careful with what kind of resources do we need for hydrogen, for green hydrogen production? Which kind of resources could become scarce in the future? Matthias, maybe do you have anything to add to that, but possibly also the others? Yes, as I already mentioned, the question about in which
period of the year you have the hydrogen, and what to do with the heat. Yes, in Greek, perhaps in summer it's not so easy to use the heat, and perhaps there are some possibilities to integrate this heat in other processes. I don't know. Yes, and I think the limitation is, in my opinion, is steel and concrete, because you have to build up, yes, a lot of facilities for, I will say, wind power and for some electrolyzers for the use of the hydrogen in chemical industry. And I have one example in my head, and it's the Shell project, the Pearl project from Shell in Qatar. And they use methane and they make some hydrocarbons out of it. And if you have a look, the plant is about 16 times larger than a usual refinery with the same capacity. And I think concrete and steel and also copper, yes, for the grids. This is a limitation. Raw materials are really limited in this way. Also, with wind turbines, you have to use neodymium and some other rare earth materials, and this is a big issue to ramp up all the power production and to make, yes, of course, green hydrogen.
Yeah, thank you for that, and maybe I'll hand over to you, Javier, for expanding on that, because I mean, Javier, you said we have to look at consumption and matching consumption with production, but when we look at this, of course, there is a problem. Of course, using more hydrogen and producing more hydrogen is an opportunity for the region, but as we discussed, it is also costly. Should we not try to use as little hydrogen as we can and explore efficiency potentials and bring our industries together to use as little hydrogen as we can? Is that how do we balance those things that obviously it's energy needs and resource needs? Are there any thoughts that you have in Aragon in that respect, or how do you bring people together to think about things like that?
In fact, we are thinking very much. We have industrial consumptions. Most of them are thermal uses, and we have very big thermal industrial uses. Another important thing in Aragon is the logistics. We are in a very central point in Spain. We have the 80% of the GDP around 300 kilometers around the center of our region, and we think for the heavy transport or trucks, trains would be a very good use of the hydrogen, and we are working very much about that. Even the logistic companies are very interested in it, and we have two electro-intensive companies that could make some substitution of technologies, but that's not easy. That's the reason, because we are thinking in one long-term transition. We have to start now to find all that things. And another, I think one important thing that we have to consider, there are one neck bottle about the equipments. It's not easy now to get electrolyzers, many of the equipment. Even we cannot solve that lacks with the volunteer. We have to adapt the growth of this technology, of this uses and these installations to the reality. And that's, we have many people working about that. In Aragon, we have in fact paper factories that uses very thermal. We have fertilizers factories, a lot of them, and we have chemical industry. All them are potential consumers of hydrogen, but we cannot go so fast as we want. We have to go slow by sure. Do you understand the expression? Have to go slow and sure, and working every day.
Yeah, thank you for that view. And maybe just to touch upon an issue, and I would like to maybe take a round with all four of you is, I mean, in many of the issues we've discussed in cold regions, we've discussed about social questions, about the softer factors, about acceptance, about skills, and really the link to social acceptance of our technologies. Do you see that? How is that for hydrogen? Is that important? Is that an important factor? What are your experiences when you talk to people on the ground? May that be, I don't know, the general public, or may that be decision makers from companies? Is acceptance and social questions, where do you see where the important things are that we need to look at, or where can we learn maybe from experiences in the regions that you already have experiences? Javier, do you want to start? Do you have anything to add on that?
Yes, I can. The Aragon government is using one tool to promote the hydrogen technologies. The tool is one foundation, the Aragon Hydrogen Foundation, and that foundation was working almost 10 years ago about the social perception of hydrogen, and the foundation got a lot of things, but it has been through our participation in Hydrogen Valley projects. The foundation was working in three of the more important hydrogen valleys in Europe: Big Hit in the Orkney Islands, Heaven in the Netherlands, or Green Island in Mallorca, that is starting now, and that's where we have identified that this point is a key point. This time of overarching projects with an important dimension, the involvement of civil society is invaluable. We need citizens to know the positive impact and benefits that hydrogen technologies can bring. And we have to make hydrogen see to the general public. And I think that in the cold regions, it's easier because they have the culture and they have the skills, and they can see in the hydrogen one way to generate employment, and it could be one vector of wealth. And I think that in the cold parts of Aragon, they are more proactive towards the hydrogen. That's our experience. They have a lot of curiosity about the technology. The companies, the small and medium companies, want to know about that. They want to have hydro refilling stations. They want to get the technology there. But for me, it's one of the most important things, the social acceptance. and to understand the technology.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for pointing that out, but also showing that actually many coal regions are not actually in a bad position, or could not be in a bad position if it's similar to what your experiences are in Aragon. Nikolaos, how would you see that from a Greek perspective?
I totally agree. I totally agree with Aragon's perspective. So we experience the same issue here, and so of course social acceptance is very, very important. Also, social acceptance of the just transition and on the issues of the coal regions in transition is very, very important. So they kind of match together. What we have seen here in our region is a skepticism about how quickly we can go from a lignite-based economy into a hydrogen-based economy. So the perspective here is that this is very on the long-term future. So 2050, a bit early, but not in tomorrow. So what we are trying to, let's say, achieve here and present it to the people, to the citizens, is that hydrogen is here. Hydrogen, it's not in 2050. It will be here quite early, and we want to be here quite early because it can tackle the transition period quite well. And the industrial, let's say, attitude of the region, I think it's common in all regions in transition, coal regions in transition. The industrial attitude, the industrial mentality really helps a lot in this aspect.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a good point of it's an industry and an affinity or openness to industrial jobs and industrial sites in the region. It definitely helps. Matthias, may I ask to you what is your perspective? Maybe also with the skills. There has been a question in the Q&A on skills. I mean, you looked at it very much from the chemical industry, and obviously there is a transition from existing chemical industry to future hydrogen. But when we also look at skills from the broader coal region, or maybe closer to jobs in coal and coal mining, coal power plants, do you see there is potentials from those jobs shifting to jobs related to hydrogen, or is it actually a different bunch of people? How would you see that? Do you have any experiences on that?
Mm-hmm. Of course, in the coal region, people are a little bit anxious because they say, well, we have wind turbines, we have renewables, and we do not earn money from this technologies when we have some industries which use the power and the renewable hydrogen. Well, it would be, yes, it could be good for us. And we have to change first their attitude, because they have the mining process, they have the maintenance people, and they earn money from this, and we have to convince them, okay, if you have green hydrogen, you need people who make the maintenance work. They have to build up the plants, you need technicians and so on, and so we have to talk with them. And the special case the company is called Mibrak. They are owned by ECH from Czechia, and they try to make the transition. They try to involve their people employed in their company. They try to show them what might be the future for the company and for the jobs. And so they're interested and they are open to deal with the theme with green hydrogen and so on, and what is coming in the future and what skills do we need. They ask for the needs in the future, and they have a perspective, well, it will be good at the end. And I think this is very important to show how can the transition be what is necessary, which skills do we need. We have to think in another way because, as mentioned from Xavier and so on, yes, it's necessary to think about the dynamic of green hydrogen, the companies which use the hydrogen, the companies which use and produce the hydrogen. Yes, it's very important to make another thinking.
Thank you for the view, and maybe then my last question would go to you, Karl, from an Ushi region perspective. How do you see it? I mean, mining is considered a very down to earth job and technology. Hydrogen is often considered as very, I don't know, future and I don't know, high technical things. Is there a mismatch between how people see it? Can people actually accept, broader public, can they accept that hydrogen can be a future? And on the skills, how do you see it? Is it from your region, what would be needed to bring in those skills that are needed for hydrogen, or is that an easy way because it just adds to what people have as skill sets in the region?
Thank you, Timon. I will start from your last question. I definitely think that it's much more easier to, let's say, reskill or upskill people from coal mining industry into the hydrogen one than to make them programmers, yeah, or trying to somehow make them different. Yeah, this is somehow in line with their experience, with their knowledge base. So in this field, I do not see such a problem. When it comes to the acceptance, I have to agree with all the remarks of Javier and Davos. I definitely agree, and it's also the point of view of mine and my colleagues. What I do see as important is that when we have been mentioning that there are large, let's say, spaces, fields, post-mining sites here in the core regions, which can be used for the installing the renewables and production of the green hydrogen. We have to say that planning this has to be part of the spatial development of the whole area, because this will give enough space so the general public will accept the technology and the whole system to be part of our future, yeah, to our new status quo. Because when it will not be part of spatial development, then there we can face the challenges related to the acceptance of the technologies being installed. For example, quite close to the cities, large fields of photovoltaics or large wind turbines. You know, here in Czech Republic, we got our not so positive experience when it comes to the acceptance of people regarding the wind energy, and also some not so positive experience when it comes to the support of the photovoltaics. So let's hope it will be different in upcoming years. Also, thanks to the fact that the people will see the opportunity for the region and their own future in the business, their own, let's say, competitiveness, and the future also of their children.
Thank you, Karl, and thank you for linking that also to, hey, we've had made experience with acceptance of new technologies, of renewables, and to put that into perspective. Thank you for all four of you for this interesting debate. Thank you for all the participants. I think we have a well-earned lunch break ahead of us. Hopefully, most of us have a lunch break ahead of us. I enjoyed that discussion very much. I think it showed quite a bit the complexity we have in hydrogen. It showed the great opportunities for coal regions. I mean, it can be a possibility for future industrial development in coal regions, and I think we made that very clear, that links to many opportunities that coal regions have, and skill sets, and just the conditions that are there. But there are, and I think we need to be honest, there are quite a bit of challenges in terms of how to bring in the investments, how to build the infrastructure, how to bring everything together in terms of decision makers and companies, framework conditions. I think it's not going to be the last time we're going to be discussing hydrogen and green hydrogen. But I think, to me, it was an interesting debate. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you join the other events after the lunch break. There will be more coming up this afternoon and tomorrow. And yeah, thank you. Enjoy lunch break.
Thank you all.